Hello everyone. This is my final UK 2024 election update. I did look at the Conservative and Labour platforms. Couldn't even read through the Labour platform. It's that bad. One of the key differences is on the the alphabet community. Labour, in their platform, says that they will ban conversion therapy. All right. So if a pastor wants to counsel a homosexual who wants to get out of that lifestyle, that pastor or even counselor would likely be jailed under Labour, under a Secure Starmer, who, by the way, can't even define what a woman is. So that's who the Labour Party has as their candidate for Prime Minister. Also, now the Conservatives, a newly re-elected Conservative government, won't introduce a ban on conversion therapy. So there's a difference between the two parties on that end. Also, when it comes to women's sports and women's locker rooms, in the Conservative platform on that topic, it says biological sex means biological sex. So no men in women's locker rooms or women's sport teams, or no biological men in women's prisons. Labour would actually reverse the ban on puberty blockers that the Conservatives have put in place, and they would allow men to be on women's sports, to be in women's locker rooms, in women's spaces, and in women's prisons. So you can tell the difference between the two there. No commitment from Labour as to whether or not they'll honor the trade agreement signed by the current Conservative government. Nothing. And yet, this entire election is, in essence, one could say, rigged in favor of the Labour Party. And here's why. Because the election coverage or even reform. Because the right-wing press has been very pro-reform. The left-wing press, pro-Labour. And the press in this campaign have focused entirely on drama and or scandals in the Conservative Party. Some of it made up, by the way, scandals are. Nothing about policy, hardly anything about policy. And if the media had been focused more on policy, the results tomorrow could be different. And they still could end up being different. But because of right-wing commentators in the United States, such as Alex Jones, Steve Bannon, Sebastian Gorka, Mike Adams, others in alternative media, including in the UK, also have encouraged the split on the right between the Conservatives and Reform. Now, if a significant amount of voters, all they need is a small amount, who are already having regrets, buyer's remorse, who second thoughts actually on whether or not they should allow Labour to have an unchecked supermajority in the House of Commons after tomorrow. If enough of those voters vote for the Conservative Party, Labour will not win a supermajority. If enough Reform voters, just a small amount, go back to the Conservative Party, Labour will not win a supermajority. So, an unchecked supermajority. So this is critical. If Labour gets an unchecked supermajority tomorrow, then they can do whatever they want. And I'm saying this, being in Minnesota the last 2 years, what Tim Walz and the DFL did with a supermajority, the damage that they did as far as the LGBTQ plus community. Right? Conversion therapy. We saw a conversion therapy ban bill in Minnesota. We saw an equal rights, equality Act. They tried to pass, which of course they weren't able to, thankfully. But what they did is, if minor children want to get their genitalia removed, want to go under sex change surgery or puberty blockers, they can do that without parental consent in Minnesota. And if parents refuse to allow their children to have gender reassignment surgery in Minnesota, those parents that refuse to allow their children to have gender reassignment surgery can lose their parental rights. Now, I can say this: if Labor has a majority in the UK tomorrow, when it's an unchecked supermajority, that legislation will be far worse than legislation that was passed in Minnesota. That is a fact. It will be worse. So, if you're a voter in the UK and you watch this video, think hard when you put that cross on the ballot box paper tomorrow. Think very carefully before filling your ballot paper. Because if you vote Labor and Labor gets a supermajority, you will never get the country back. You will never again have a free, fair, and honest election. Labor will introduce conversion therapy ban bill. The parents will lose their parental rights if they refuse to allow their underage children to have gender reassignment surgery. That will happen. Abortion on demand. Pastors, anybody who speaks out against this agenda will be jailed. Talk about two-tier justice system in the United States. That is nothing in comparison to what will be under Keir Starmer. Keir will have no problem locking up his opponents, making up scandals to lock them up. No problem finishing off the Conservative Party, and reform will be next. Nigel Farage could face jail time in prison as well. There will be no opposition tolerated to the new Labor regime. They intend, if they get that unchecked majority, the country is lost. It will take a divine intervention, maybe even American intervention as well, to get to unseat Keir Starmer. And Americans need to vote for Donald Trump on November 5th. Because if Keir Starmer wins on Thursday, tomorrow, and is sworn in on Friday as Prime Minister, Donald Trump will be able to keep Keir Starmer in line. Joe Biden or even Gavin Newsom will not keep Keir Starmer in check. They won't do anything to keep Keir Starmer from going full tyrant. Mr. Trump will do that. He will keep Mr. Starmer from going. Mr. Trump will keep Mr. Starmer from going full tyrant. More than likely. So again, the choice is clear. A vote for reform is a vote for an unchecked super labor majority government. It is clear. A vote for the Conservatives is either for a vote for a Parliament or a vote to keep a Labour government in check. And then here's another thing for Conservatives to consider. If they lose tomorrow, one of the first things they need to do is to what we have currently now is what's called the Salisbury Convention. That's been in place since the 1940s, since Clement Attlee was Prime Minister and the head of a Labour government. The Conservative opposition needs to revoke the Salisbury Convention. They cannot give a Labour government a free pass on getting this agenda through the House of Lords. And if it triggers a constitutional crisis, then so be it. But let me repeat this. The Salisbury Convention must be revoked by the Conservative Party in the House of Lords. Because if Keir Starmer has unchecked numbers in the House of Commons, even with Liberal Democrat support, the House of Lords will be the only chamber that will be able to block or delay, at least, implementation of Keir Starmer's agenda. Only the House of Lords will be able to keep Starmer in check. And King Charles III. And King Charles III needs to veto any legislation that would pass the House of Commons that clears through Parliament, where Labour invoked the Parliament Act of 1949, where Labour forced through legislation. If Labour uses the Parliament Act to force legislation, then the King must veto those bills. And Donald Trump, if you're watching this video, you need to make it clear to Mr. Starmer that any referendum, any change in the form of government in the United Kingdom must be subject to a free, fair, and honest referendum. That the United States will not recognize a change in the form of government that does not involve where there was not a free and fair, honest referendum. Right? That is all there is to it. So if Keir Starmer decides to declare himself permanent head of state, absolute dictator, then the United States must not recognize Starmer's dictatorial regime. End of discussion. The United States should not recognize any change of government unless there was a free, fair, and honest referendum involved. And I can guarantee, if there is a change of government involving a referendum of any kind, one, it will not involve either a referendum, and if it does involve a referendum, it will not be a free, fair, and honest referendum. It will be a rigged vote. So the general election tomorrow in the UK should be considered even by arch royalists as a referendum on the future of the monarchy and the parliament to represent the former government. If Labour wins an unchecked majority, both are gone. It will just be a matter of when, not if. So, like I said, are the Conservatives perfect? No. But a Conservative government is better than any Labour government, no matter how imperfect the Conservative government is. Any Conservative government is better than a Labour one, especially where a Labour government that is headed by a woke leader. And by the way, Keir Starmer is the worst opposition leader there is. The worst. When it came to COVID lockdowns, Keir Starmer went along with the Conservative government on everything. And in fact, he even wanted to go further than the Conservative government. Pierre Poilievre in Canada is perhaps the best opposition leader there is. Because Pierre Poilievre actually holds the Trudeau government to account. Starmer doesn't. Starmer never has. And so if Starmer wins tomorrow, the United Kingdom, for it to survive, and for the constitutional monarchy to survive, along with representative form of government to survive, a Labour government needs a strong opposition. a strong conservative opposition. Not reform. Reform will only win probably 5 seats max. Not going to win 18 seats. Even if they win 18 seats, they're not going to be able to provide the opposition that the conservatives could. And if they win 18 seats, of course, then the Democrats form the official opposition, House of Commons. And essentially, the Liberal Democrats will go on Labor on everything. So, the only real opposition to the left comes from the right. So, and if Labor wins the unchecked majority, then Alex Jones, Steve Bannon, Gretchen Gorka, Mike Adams, anybody in the right wing or alternative media that encourages split is responsible for what happens in the next 5 years. They are directly responsible. And they need to own up their They need responsibility and own up to it. And they need to apologize to those voters, to those 65, 70 million people, perhaps even 80 million, I'm not sure what the population is offhand. But they need to apologize to every single British citizen to whom these individuals helped subjugate to an unchecked socialist government, to a two-tier justice system, to unchecked socialist tyranny. Because these individuals, by encouraging a split in the right, if Labour gets an unchecked supermajority tomorrow, will have blood on their hands. And in fact, I would say if they should pay. They got enough money, they should even pay to rehouse for the refugees that flee Kiev-Starmer socialist tyranny. They should pay to house. They should even get their homes to house refugees. How does that sound? But sound fair to me. I mean, they're responsible for it, so right. So they're responsible for whatever happens in the next 5 years. Directly responsible because they encourage a split in the right. And again, like I said, they owe every British citizen an apology for subjugating them to a socialist hellhole. I don't think they'll get that apology. And if you are a subscriber to Health Ranger or Alex Jones Show or Steve Bannon program or Sebastian Gorka or any of those alternative media channels that encourage a split in the right, I would encourage you to think about unsubscribing from these individuals. Discount your subscription. It wouldn't hurt you one bit. So, that's all I have. But again, if you are in the UK, vote Conservative tomorrow. Thank you.